Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll give a little bit of orientation instructions while more people are coming on. I'm Kim Anderson, and I'm glad to see all of you here on our first webinar that we're having with Nazca. If everyone, I think everyone is muted right now, but if everyone, as they come on, make sure to mute yourself, and then we don't run into much feedback for other people. Also, if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's a little chat button. And when you click on that, a little message area on the lower right-hand corner opens up. If you have any questions that come up in your brain while we're going through this, please enter them in there. And Jessica will be monitoring those so that we can have the question and answer period afterwards. And then also during the question and answer period, there's a little button that says raise your hand. You could also click on that if you didn't type in your question, and we'll try to get through as many questions as possible. So what I'm going to do actually now is start sharing my screen. And let me move this out of the way. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. If a few people just shake their heads, I'll be okay. All right. So this is the first, like I mentioned, the first webinar that Nazca is having. And we really want to start doing these quarterly and take advantage of online technology so that our community can be together and interact with each other and communicate with each other. And so we decided to call it SCI Connections. And it will also be a learning program. As we go through this one, we'll learn what we need to adapt and modify for the next ones, because we want to do what our community wants to hear and talk about. So first, I want to just start with acknowledgement that this COVID-19 disease is going on, and it's particularly important for our community. Even if you have, if you don't have a cervical injury, but you've got a thoracic injury, you can still have lung weakness and abdominal weakness that could put you at greater risk for respiratory infections. So we want to make sure that we're spreading the word throughout our community in case anybody hasn't had access to SCI specific information. This first link here from New Mobility Magazine, they put out really great information yesterday, and it's got many different resources and explanations of things that people with spinal cord injury or disease should be aware of, what they can do at their house, what they can do when they're out in the community. And by the way, we're going to share a PDF of this whole presentation with everyone that will have the links that you can actually click on. And Shepherd Center also has been putting out some good information. There's a news link where they update each day or as they have new information, and then they also have an actual page dedicated to COVID-19. This is an evolving situation, so if any of the links end up getting broken because the organizations may have moved their information, please let us know and we'll make sure to update the right link. United Spinal Resource Center is looking for people to share any stories if they have problems or successes with their home care services during this whole situation. And we hope that people actually don't run into many problems, but we know that that's probably a reality. They are able to take that information and use it for influencing our representatives and our congressmen to let them know in these kinds of, unexpected situations, there are these problems that happened. And that's really important to try to identify how to prevent them from happening in the future. Just as a note, they're not a 24-hour hotline, and they won't be able to help you find immediate caregivers. but they may be able to help you figure out ways to find new people in the future, or to try to prepare yourself for if your caregiver were to get sick. And then lastly, the Administration for Community Living has a really good website that they've put out with a lot of resources for older adults and people living with disabilities in general. So please share these links throughout your networks and your friends and your families so that everybody can stay informed about the current evolving situation. So today we are, since this is our first webinar, we're actually going to give a little bit of overview of NASCIC. And there are several people that are not members, and so we want to make sure everybody is understanding what NASCIC is and where it came from. Then we'll talk about how people can get involved, and then we'll talk about projects and outreach, and we'll have a Q&A afterwards. And my co-presenters will be Jen French, who's the Vice President of NASCIC, and she'll be talking about the projects. And then Barry Monroe will take over. He's the treasurer of NASCIC, and he'll talk about outreach and some different activities that we have going on. So first of all, who are we? NASCIC stands for the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium, and that's pretty long term to have to spell out each time. So that's where the acronym NASCIC came from. Who do we serve? We serve people living with spinal cord injuries, their families, their friends, the organizations that they lead that may work at different areas, either locally, regionally, or nationally, across the variety of countries and territories that make up North America. And what do? We try to facilitate communication and sharing of resources and enhancing collaborations that could impact research, it could impact care, it could impact cure or policies or any combination of those. But the goal is to impact our collective community. And there are a lot of different organizations and efforts, large and small, out there, and they may be focused on small things or large things. And those are all super important because, as you know, spinal cord injury is incredibly complex and there are so many different needs. But not everybody always knows what the other people are doing. And so we try to be that facilitator of sharing those resources so other people can have it easier and know where to go for different information and to share that communication. And so how can we help? We can establish effective partnerships either between our different community organizations and individuals, or between our community and other stakeholders that are also very interested in spinal cord injury, whether that's the government, people doing research, hospitals, healthcare providers, or industry. Everybody is all in it for spinal cord injury, and we all have different things that we do. And so if we can develop better partnerships, we can make more progress. So I just want to give a real brief recap of how NASCIC came to be. And it started in 2016. There was a meeting in Vancouver, Canada. And out of that meeting, it was all about spinal cord injury research. But out of that meeting was a call for the community and different stakeholders needing more input from people living with spinal cord injury. And that's for many different reasons. And so several of us that were living with spinal cord injury that were at that meeting, and we were involved with different organizations, we decided, we really needed to try to figure out a way that we can start working together. And so this idea of creating a consortium came about. And in December of that year, we started creating two working committees, and they were all volunteer people that were doing other things in their lives, but wanted to try to contribute to trying to develop a consortium. So it really was a grassroots efforts. And through most of 2017, the 10 or 20 people that were on these two working committees were really doing all the legwork to try to develop content. What would this consortium look like? What would it do? And we felt like we needed to have a face-to-face meeting. And that happened in October in Miami. And in that meeting, all the people that were there decided and voted to officially form the North American SCI Consortium. And so at the end of 2017, we were finalizing this charter that we had drafted, and we figured out how we were going to actually operate and our first 3 projects and governing organization. So literally only 2 years ago, Nazca officially started, and we developed everything from scratch. So we developed membership, communication strategies, operations. We developed how to handle projects and have people involved in the project review. And then last year, we were really growing our membership and trying to develop funding and financial strategies to sustain Nazca and to build our network. So you'll hear more about some of those different things in more detail as we go through. So one of the greatest resources that you can go to is actually our website, nasciconsortium.org. And on there, you'll find a lot of useful information. We try to be providing as much information as possible, not withholding information. So if you go to the link that has our charter, you can read in full detail and transparency how the consortium operates, elections, all governance, all of that. And if you go to the membership link, you can read the description of all the different members, types of members. And then also you can see a list of current members, and that's individuals and organizations that have joined NASCIC and have said that they want their information on our website. There's a small number of organization and members that are not publicly listed on our website. And then we also have a page about projects, and NASCIC really operates on projects, not just on committees. So we identify a project either internally or someone from the community can submit a project, and it's on efforts that are important to people with spinal cord injuries. And so we let that drive us. But there are guidelines on what those projects need to address and descriptions of our current projects that are on there. We also have a news page, and we have Facebook and Twitter accounts so that we can try to spread information throughout our community that way. And then the newest link on our website is about resources. And there's 3 different areas. One of them is about spinal cord injury clinical trials participation through a website that we co-developed called SCItrials.org. And we'll talk more about that later on in the webinar. But this was something that our community said that they really wanted. And so we were able to develop that over the last 2 years. Another part of the resources is information, educating our community about the research process and what are the different things that are involved there so we can be more informed. And then the last one is a list of resources for researchers that want to engage people with spinal cord injuries in their research projects. And that's becoming increasingly important as we work together in different partnerships. So on our website, you can read many more details about all of these different things. We also have been thankful to get some financial support over the first 2 years in the inaugural meeting. Initially, we had various different sponsors that really took a chance on us for something that was brand new, and they gave us different amounts of money so that we could operate. And then just last year, we were successful in getting a special infrastructure grant from the Craig Nielsen Foundation. And we have that for 2 more years that can sustain and develop NASCIC. So we're really grateful for all of that financial support. So how do people get involved in case there's anyone on the webinar that's not already a member, or there's somebody that is a member and you want to spread this out to your friends in your community or your colleagues? There's 3 different types of membership categories. So the first group is a principal member, and that's any organization that's a charity in whatever country or territory in North America. In the US, it's a 501c3. In Canada, it's a registered charity. In other countries and territories, it might be called something different. But basically, it's a nonprofit, consumer-based organization that is directly serving, representing, or advocating for the SCI community. And it doesn't matter if it's on a national, regional, or a local level. But the key is that it's nonprofit and it's led by people with spinal cord injuries or family or caregivers or things like that. And we currently have 41 organizations that are principal members. And they actually, each one of those organizations has a very wide reach of members or followers throughout the community. So they're able to actually share more information through their network. And then there is patron member, which is any individual living with a spinal cord injury or someone that is directly representing a person with spinal cord injury. So a caregiver, a family member, a very good friend. And the objective there is that you're representing yourself and you're not an organization. And we have 194 individuals already that are patron members. And then the last group is a partner member. And this is everybody else and every other organization that has a vested interest in spinal cord injury, whether it's spinal cord injury research, spinal cord injury care, policy. It could be an individual researcher or physician or therapist, or it could be a research institution or a hospital or funding organization, anyone that doesn't fit in these two categories but has vested interest in spinal cord injury. And it's very important that we have membership from all three of those categories so that we can successfully move ahead. And we currently have 30 organizations and individuals that fall into the partner category. So I think this graph is pretty telling. In February of 2018 is when we actually opened up the membership process. And so in just under 2 years, we've grown from 0 to about 250. And I haven't added the additional that have joined in this early part of 2020. So I think that this is really important, and it's really telling that our community really does want to work together and we want to share information and resources. So what are some of the reasons that you might actually want to join? Well, if you're a person or organization with spinal cord injury, if you join, you can really help in unifying the community to cooperatively leverage all of these different resources and facilitate changes to improve the lives of people living with spinal cord injury. And if you're a partner organization, you get the benefit of engaging with the community and enhancing effective partnerships between all of the different stakeholders, research, healthcare, and policy. So it involves exchanging information and networking across the community, sharing your lived experience with spinal cord injury or as a family member or caregiver of someone with spinal cord injury, because that is incredibly valuable. Nobody else has that expertise but the people that are going through it. And it really, really can inform research and clinical care to benefit us. Also, partners are able to engage directly with the community and enable the ability to enhance your research or your care or your products that you're working on. And it enables you the ability to participate in projects that can move research to care and that can learn from care to inform research. And most of all, improving and strengthening the voice of our community and trying to do the best that we can for everyone in our community. So importantly, membership is free. And for information on how to become a member, you can go to this link right here, and there's a simple form that you fill out. All right, now I'm going to hand this over to our Vice President, Jen French, and she's going to talk about projects.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks you all for joining us today on our first webinar. As Kim mentioned earlier, projects are kind of the heart of the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium. And part of forming the organization, one of the things that we learned across consortiums and a lot of different other conditions and other ones around the world is that projects really help to keep the consortiums going, and they help to give life and involvement of everyone that's involved. So really our consortium centers around these types of projects. So when you always ask of how you can get involved, it's not just becoming a member, you can also get involved in our projects, and I'll go into that in just a little bit. But we don't just take on any project into the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium. So we get proposals in, And when those proposals come in, it goes through a review process. And with our review process, we have guidelines that have an application and what we expect to see within these types of projects. Because one of the things that's very important to us, and I sure is hope is important to you, is that when we talk about research, when we talk about any type of engagement with our community, we want to have a voice in the process. And that's one of the things that we want to ensure that is happening, is that the voice of people with lived experience, their family members, their caregivers, have a voice in the process and in these types of projects. So when a project comes in, it goes to what's called our project review committee. And our project review committee currently consists of 9 members. They're members within the consortium, and they're a very active and vibrant group. I love working with them. But we take in those types of external projects and we review their applications. So this committee goes through, reviews the applications, really digs into some of the details, asks a lot of those detailed questions, and we work with the proposers to try to refine that proposal to see if this is something that fits the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium, but also achieves the objective of the submitter. We are also currently going through an evaluation metrics, so we can really have a good idea of the projects that we're taking on and how do we measure that performance, and how do we make sure that we're achieving the goals that were originally set forward. So our project review committee is not a stagnant committee. We consist of 9 people, but everyone has staggered terms. So there's terms from 1 year to 3 years. And every year we have a call for new members. So if you're a member of the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium, and if this is a way that you want to get involved with our organization, please get in touch with us. And you can also be involved through our project engagement database, which I'll go through in just a minute. But really this committee determines what types of programs we can take on, what we think fits well into the mission of the organization. And then it doesn't stop there. Once we approve a project through our committee, it goes through the executive committee of Nazca, and then it actually goes out to our membership. So if you're a member, you'll get a preview of what this project we're thinking of taking on, and we let you decide whether or not this is something that fits into the consortium and achieves the goals of getting the people with lived experience involved in a specific project. So what types of projects do we bring on? Well, we bring in external projects. A lot of them recently have been coming from the research community. And some of that is because of some of the call outs from our funders have been actually requesting to have people with lived experience, their voices involved in their types of grant applications. So we're seeing that as well. We also have about 9 projects that are currently going on right now since 2018 with the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium. And there's about 29 people that we have placed into these different projects. So every project's different. Some of them have consumer advisory boards. Some of them have development of surveys. Some of them have a lot of different things, but when we take on a project, we kind of profile what the involvement means from somebody that wants to get involved with it, and also what the time commitments are and what are the expectations for anyone that wants to get involved with those projects. So how do you get placed into a project or recruited for a project to get your opinion and your input? Well, we have something that's called the Project Engagement Database. And that's a very private database within our organization. But for anyone that wants to be a consumer advisor or to have input on our various projects or to get recruitment calls about our project, please apply on our Project Engagement Database. And that's available on our website. That your information is kept private, but we use that database to go out with our recruitment calls for various projects as they come in. We also have internal projects that the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium takes on. So for instance, we've done a couple of research advocacy and funding advocacy efforts. Some of them been through the National Institutes of Health in the US to be able to help funders understand the unique, complex issues that come along with spinal cord injury and help to build that awareness amongst the funding and research agencies. Also recently, we've built a partnership with the FDA, the US FDA, Food and Drug Administration. They have a pilot program going on called the Patient and Caregiver Connection Program. That's a pilot project through the FDA. There's 14 different organizations that are in that pilot program. The North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium is one of them. And the efforts of that program are to have a very distinct dialogue and active dialogue between those living with lived experience and the regulators that are evaluating what can be approved and not approved. So there's a dialogue between the two for them to help understand how we assess risk and benefit, but also for us to educate them about the various conditions and what's important and what are the priorities to our community. So that's a great way to get involved. Also, they hold workshops and want to take input directly from our community, and some of those call outs happen. When we're looking for those call outs, again, we'll go to our project engagement database. So that's another way to get involved with the consortium. And of course, we have the SCI clinicaltrials.org that Kim mentioned earlier, and Barry will go into a little bit more detail. So all of this is outlined on our website. It's through the NASCIconsortium.org under projects. You'll be able to see where you can have the engagement database, how you can join, and some of the projects that we currently have going on. So we'll go over some of those projects quickly with you. Some of the external projects that we currently have going on, I'll just go through these quickly. We put together an advisory team working with the Neuromodulation Working Group. That working group was formulated by the Craig Nielsen Foundation to really tackle what are the key issues of bladder and bowel for the spinal cord injury community. And some of you may have taken it. We sent out a survey to our community about bladder and bowel and the preferences and levels of risk for a neuromodulation device for bladder and bowel. And that survey is currently in process of being published in a peer-reviewed published review paper. And that will be published, and that's going to really impact our spinal cord injury research community. We also are working with the University of British Columbia on enhancing partnerships and really building some guidelines on conducting and disseminating research in partnership with the SCI community. And there's an advisory board involved with that as well. There's also an advisory board for a team that's developing the next generation of robotic exoskeletons. And that is part of the Toyota Mobility Challenge. And so they're in their final stages now, and the winner of that Mobility Challenge will actually be featured at the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. So we're pretty excited about that and be able to have the voice of the spinal cord injury community looking at the next generation of exoskeletons. We're also working closely with United Spinal Association on the CDC registry. The Center for Disease Control is trying to understand the registries and understand the population with people with various neurological conditions. And we're working with United Spinal and the CDC to help develop those parameters specifically for spinal cord injury. We also have a project through ICORD about open data sharing. This is, again, another survey that's being developed, but really to help understand our perspectives of when data is collected, what do we care to share and what do we care to keep private? So that you'll end up seeing that type of survey coming out recently or in the near future. The Mid-Atlantic SCI Research Network is a network that was created amongst various researchers to include an advisory board of research that's going on in that specific region. You may have completed a survey that was sent out about emerging therapies for people with spinal cord injury, really to assess how people get their information, what do they find valued, and how do they think we might be able to structure that better in the future so we can make sure that valid and accurate information gets out to our community. We currently have an open survey. We're working with the Praxis Institute with a spinal stimulation survey, and we are seeking feedback from the spinal cord injury community about their perspectives of spinal cord stimulation for a therapy for spinal cord injury, and our perspectives in terms of risk and benefit, and some of the other ancillary pieces that come along with that. So that's an open survey. If you haven't taken the survey, please do so. It's been posted on our Twitter and Facebook accounts, as well as been sent out in our newsletter, and we'll send it out one more time. It's expected to close at the end of the month, so if you haven't responded, please do so. We also have a recent project that we've taken on that's really trying to develop a measurement tool to track how people are using and how effective are these activity-based therapy programs. And that's a partnership with the University of Toronto to develop that type of technology, so we can have some better data that shows the effectiveness in terms of the activity-based therapy. So those are our external programs. Further details about those programs are all posted on our website. But again, we have the survey that's open. Here is the link. You'll get that in your PDF as well at the end of this webinar. But again, this is a survey that we're looking at, really trying to understand the risk versus benefit for our spinal cord injury community and their perspectives on spinal cord stimulation as a treatment. And I want to go a little bit more in detail about the project engagement database, because really this is how you can get involved in these projects, and you can have a voice on various advisory boards and various projects that we have. So we receive several projects, and when we do get those, we do some outlines in terms of time commitment, duration, what the expectations are, and what are the goals are, and what do we expect to get out of these types of programs. So really it's a benefit of membership. So those first calls go out to our members. So if you are a member of the North American Spinal Cord Injury Consortium, this is a way to get involved. And I have to say this is that, you probably have felt that we've put out quite a few surveys in the recent past, but that really has a key impact because that's giving a voice to our community. And though the results from those surveys have been going to the National Institutes of Health that fund a majority of spinal cord injury research. They've been going out to the Department of Defense, which has a spinal cord injury research program. And they also go to other various funding agencies to help them understand what are the perspectives of our community. So you have an impact by responding to these surveys. And we also want to provide the results to you as well, so you can see what your peers are saying. So when we get those results, we also put them out on social media. So please keep posted as you see various results from our surveys coming out, so you understand and see where your voice is being heard. So that's a kind of a summary of our projects. One of the internal one that I mentioned was the SEI Trials.org, and I'm going to hand it over to Barry, our treasurer, to talk about that in a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Jen. So the community has spoken, and for several years, we're hearing really the cry for a need for some kind of central database or platform that would allow us to easily access information about whatever trials are available out there, frankly, not just in North America, but around the world. And there's been many piecemeal attempts, and we've had the great opportunity of working with Niall Al-Assad, who is a paraplegic out of the UK and a bit of a software genius or sort of computer engineer, and he put together this whole platform on his own to share with the community. And the best part about this was it involved the community from the very get-go, that we as a community, and especially us at North American SCI Consortium, had input in the design and really the refinement of this great platform. Many of you may have heard of other platforms, much like, say, the big one we hear about is Fox Trials, with Parkinson's, looking for trials. But this, one thing you have to realize, that this does different things. The community is more than just us. For example, it is used as an access point for researchers as well in trying to recruit people for the community. But as you can see on this slide, that there is several organizations within our community that have all supported this program and have had access and given us input on how to create it. And we're very thankful that these organizations have also given us the opportunity to help market the program. To date, there are just over 700 people that are enrolled in the register with the program, but registration can be anything you want it to be. Frankly, giving your email, your name, your regional jurisdiction of where you live, as well as potentially any more information on your type of injury, place of injury, degree of injury, and length of injury is pretty well the minimum stuff you can do. When I registered, frankly, it took me 5 minutes. Now, that being said, there's much more involved with this site. And here's an example where if you're searching for trials, so specifically, if you're looking at certain things, you can put that in there either regionally, or you can put it in by trial topic. And that's what we like about this program, that it has the GPS sort of set up in that, I'm probably using the wrong words, but it allows you to really locate studies that are close to you if you're interested in doing that. And what you see here is when they give a brief profile on the studies themselves, that they will mention that they're still recruiting. One thing we do know, that there are somewhere between 300 to 400 major trials being conducted for SCI throughout the world. And there's probably on the recruitment range, less than a third of them have been filled. So it is a problem. And we think by allowing people the opportunity of more information, that there is a chance for communication between both ourselves as people with injuries to the research community who are trying to recruit at the same time. So again, if you look at this slide, this is an example of what you can see. I do encourage everybody to go on SCItrials.org and really go through all the aspects of it. It really doesn't take long. And once you get in there, you really understand. And you'll see here, you can filter it, your searches. So if you're only interested in specific things like drugs, devices, or electrical stim, it's there. And then you'll get notices once you're registered that if there's a new STEM study coming up, you'll be notified of that because you've asked for that. If you're more concerned about pressure sores or neuroplasticity or pain, again, as new studies come online or they renew the recruitment renewal and attempt to get more people involved, you'll get a notice on that if you've expressed that interest. So these are all very good things. Now you will notice that there's an automatic disclaimer. We as North American SCI Consortium and SCItrials.org in no way pretend to offer any kind of medical advice. That is not what it's there for. And the summaries of the research that is available is strictly lay summaries and overviews, and we say that outright. So at that point, if you want to dig deeper, you have the ability to contact the researchers or institution directly. So keep that in mind. But again, here's an example of how you can go right into a study and ask for to apply to be helped and be part of the study itself. And then that's where it's sort of, they have the opportunity to contact you directly and potentially dig down more on information and on your health and such. We are completely protected with it comes to privacy, because we don't really hold any personal information or medical information. So we don't have the ability, if we wanted to share it with anybody. This is up to you to contact. And this is really, we're a portal and a platform to bring both the community of researchers and the community of people with lived experience together. Frankly, our SCI community as one. And it's very new. We've only really kicked this thing off in the late fall of last year. And we're excited about really growing this piece, because there's a lot more potential to this product, and that down the road, we'll have a lot more data that we may be able to share, on a larger scale without any, personal information being shared. Plus, we have the ability to communicate with our community via this platform as well. But for now, it's really essential that we try to get as many people we can to register that are interested. Like, you don't want to register for this thing if you're not interested. But many people that are listening today, you work within communities, you might be representative with your organizations of many people with spinal cord injuries, and maybe your organization isn't really involved in, quote, research per se, but as you know, that is a question and a priority for many people, especially newly injured, are always asking about research in general. This is a good example of families and people with lived experience to really investigate on their own and become part of the greater movement of applying and being directly involved with the program. And in fact, along the way, you learn more about the research itself. So once again, you can create your own injury profile, and it takes minutes. It's that easy. And we really encourage people to do this so that once you do that, the filters will take place, the analytics will move towards marrying you with a recruiting group that are trying to put together a study of somebody in your position that might be interested in participating in a study, with having the actual attributes and conditions that they're looking for. And frankly, someone that's best married to what you want and your needs too. So it's a great way of matching us all up together. So again, I encourage everybody to become part of this. Now, really, this was part of kind of a larger piece that we identified. And as you may know, back in February of last year, we ran a survey which had about approximately 1,800 people respond within 30 days, which is an absolutely incredible. Most of those people were people with lived experience, and we asked several questions. But one of the things that came out of that was looking for leadership, I think, and the ability to organize ourselves better and to be better advocates, or being part of a larger advocacy movement. You know, we've had a chance to witness other groups go through this evolution, so we have a great opportunity to learn from them. You might have heard us or others speak in the past about the evolution of the AIDS movement, how they went from a very fractured group of very passionate people in the 1980s, and frankly, fight for their lives, to a point where they organized themselves and were able to properly speak to Congress and to Parliament, and to really focus on initiatives and bring solutions to the table, and to help shepherd the proper research or policy initiatives and funding initiatives that were there to help their community. But it took a while to do that. And frankly, that is something, for example, we as people with spinal cord injury have to do. I think we recognize that. We're a very balkanized community. There are many very great groups throughout North America. Many are regionally based, servicing the people regionally, but might not have the opportunity to allow themselves to be part of a bigger picture. And at the same time, there are groups that have specific focus. It might be just research only. Other groups might be more about services on the ground. And that's all good, because it's all impacts all of us. So what we did find out is that there is a crying need for some type of overreaching organization of our community, which is really the basis of Nazca in itself. But more importantly, as we evolve, we think it's better now that we now learn and find a way to help grow the advocacy movement and the movement itself. And to do that is to build the capacity of individuals as ourselves. We want to be able to organize, educate, facilitate, and motivate the whole SCI community on every level across North America. We can enable a collaborative effort, and that's important. If you've seen in the past and seen on our website, the collaboration it's unprecedented. I use the analogy quite a bit, but we are Switzerland. We are not out there to compete with any of our great members and founding member groups. We're not competing with mandates. We are there to facilitate and only help things. And what we did hear from, and by the way, we didn't take this initiative lightly. We canvassed our major partners and wanted to make sure that we weren't, quote, stepping on anybody's toes. And overwhelmingly, we were supported by the major groups, which is great, saying, go ahead, put this thing together. And what we realized by being a member of NASCIC in some of these organizations, we're here to enhance their own membership and provide the services that they provide locally. And so what we thought we could do by doing all this in collaboration, we can increase the knowledge of SCI research, both in care and research within the community, by providing resources and training, which would include such topics as best practices and community engagements. We have great examples out there of some groups that have really done some great advocacy work, which includes going to Congress on the state level or on the federal level, going to Parliament or going to the provincial parliaments in Canada. And they've had some great success, and they've also had some losses. And I think they'll all tell you in their experience that they always wish they had better numbers, or if they could do it again, they would refine it and be a bit better. What we want to do is create so much of a virtual institute, which will allow us to become a training ground for individuals who want to participate in any aspect of the advocacy movement. They could be part of a group that rolls on Capitol Hill. They could be part of an advisory group that's advising a research team that's getting funded by a major funder in a large SEI trial. They could be part of an SCI trial and be part of that. All of these parts need the role of the person with lived experience. So we keep crying for that. And it's the adage, be careful for what you wish for, because now it's happening. Some of the major funders, and as Jen mentioned earlier, are actually requiring individuals with spinal cord injury to be part of these research projects. The problem is, and some of you out there know that are running some of these organizations, there is not enough of us out there to go around, or enough of us, more importantly, comfortable out there to go around. Because what we're trying to do here is not to create a bunch of scientists. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people somewhat of an education, a training where they feel comfortable in any setting to be better advocates, because all of us can tell our own story. More importantly, we have to sell our own story within the confines of the larger story of people that are going through certain issues. And so what we've done is we've decided to create a capacity building program that starts, number one, with a phase one, which is resource identification. And with that, we are really canvassing everywhere that we can find any tools that are currently up under our resource section in our website, where as a stopgap, frankly, for now, that people can access to learn about the research project process, learn about the anatomy of a spinal cord injury, and learn about other issues that are out there. And many groups have different vehicles of doing that. It could be video, could be a podcast, and it could be a PowerPoint presentation from different institutions. These are great resources, and we're already canvassing the community and bringing it up. And what we are going to do with that is create a wiki page with the resources. So we're going to crowdsource this thing. So all of you that are listening right now, please feel free to contact us and come back to us and let us know that you may know of some resource that we can plug in. We will make you're all on our list now, so we'll make you very aware of once the wiki page is set up, so that you have the ability to add to it and we can crowdsource that. And that's kind of our initial piece, because from there, we're going to be able to look at the best products and the best practices out there and try to build something that's somewhat more universal, or something we can even develop on a regional or on a subject-based piece only. The second phase of this is to build basically the virtual platform. So more than just a wiki page, there will be something more, much like SCI Trials, for example, or even part of that. We're not sure, but we're going to develop a platform where people can access it probably in an easier, more organized fashion, but they'll be directed on how to do it, and that will be set up. And of course, that takes a little bit of time. The third phase is to really implement the program and allow people to be part of a training program, a curriculum of sorts, so that then after they've completed the program, they are frankly armed with knowledge and armed with confidence, so that they can speak with authority and speak as advocates, not only for themselves, but for the community. They can be all one of our soldiers. If I keep using the war analogy, I apologize, but frankly, sometimes we're in a fight for our lives in some situations, and it's very scary. But the one thing that we emphasize most, that we are better together. What we do as a whole can far outweigh what we do as individuals on our own. We are greater that way. And then by doing that, we have the opportunity to really make a difference and move these issues forward. Because if they pick us off one at a time and be a solid, a lone voice in the community, they have the opportunity of, I say they, but decision makers just might disregard what we're trying to say. But when they hear a concise argument going forward, then that's a different story. So initially what we're doing right now is we have set up an outreach committee. And the outreach committee is really there to start the process of bringing in information as well as communicating information, recruiting more members to the North American SCI Consortium, and communicating with the members of the North American SCI Consortium. So we're responsible for the internal, external, communications. We are there to promote membership. We're there to create and approve outreach content for distribution. So we are a bit of the gatekeepers in terms of trying to refine products and messaging that can come out to you. But more important, we are there as a conduit for you, all of you, to engage us. It is through this committee that you can communicate with us. Hell, you can join it if you want. The membership is open. We are inviting people to be part of this if they want to. If you want to share any information or you have any questions regarding that part, please feel free to contact us at info@nascaconsortium.org. But we will be developing an outreach plan, and we will then implement that plan as we go forward. The one thing I wanted to mention, this is something that just came off our last call. And I want to thank Jen Wolf from Iowa sharing this conversation with us. But in light of what's happening with COVID-19, she mentioned that there's quadriplegics lying in bed in Iowa without any care on a bowel routine day. Nobody coming, no care. This is 2020. We live in North America. It's wrong. This is wrong. We have to do something about it, folks. Nobody else is going to. If we don't organize ourselves, if we do not organize ourselves as a community, we will fail. We need to do this. And so I can only ask all of you to think about this, and in any way that you possibly can, please try to A, join as a member, B, try to increase membership from Nazca through your own organizations, and C, just drop us a line if you got any questions or you want to provide us with any information that you think might help. We are all in this together, and the only way we're going to improve our lives and our community across the board is to work together. That's just something that we feel we can do. And Nazca is in a great position right now with the endorsement of all the major organizations in North America, with some funding to go with it to potentially make that difference. So once again, there's the opportunity, everybody. We don't have time for whiners and crying. Let's just get on.
We do have time for questions, though.
Yeah, time for that. Thanks.
I'm just going to end it right there. I do want to have some time for questions. Jess, do you have any questions that have come in through the chat first?
I haven't seen any come through, but if anyone wants to go ahead and ask a question, whether through the chat or raising your hand, just let us know.
And you could also take yourself off of mute if you...
Yeah, you can definitely, I think we're a good enough group if someone just wants to take off mute and ask a question.
I see there is a chat that just popped up. I'll go ahead and read that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Can we share the webinar recording with contacts in Canada? Yes, indeed. We're going to email the PDF immediately after this, but we're also going to archive the recording of the webinar onto our website. And then that way everybody can share that link and not have to worry about the size of the recording. And we welcome everybody to share the link throughout Canada, US, North America, your different colleagues and everything. So very much we want people to share it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Okay. Does anybody, if they want to take themselves off of mute and ask a question? We certainly have a few minutes. And also, if anyone is shy about doing that, you can always email us your question and we can make sure that we find out the answer for you.
I don't know, Kim, if you see the question from Peter.
Ah, yes. I'm sorry if I missed it while dealing with kids around the house. Sorry. Is there a discussion ongoing to organize some of the support network for those that are stranded, like Barry mentioned, especially when the home health services are impacted by COVID-19 right now? Actually, I see Bill Fertig on the line. Bill, can you talk a little bit more about what United Spinal might be thinking about doing to try to help people now in the current situation? You're on mute, Bill.
I can see.
Can you mute him?
I am. He has been unmuted.
Bill, you're not called, you must not be called in via the. Jen, do you want to say anything?
Yes, sorry we couldn't get Bill on the line. Bill is front and center on the front lines of answering a lot of questions about personal care attendants around the country and trying to find resources for people. Two of the resources that we have that are currently available is that United Spinal Resource Center, as Bill just put up, has a PCA coverage problems, and you can contact their resource center directly. That link and the phone numbers are available on the first slide that Kim showed on this as well. There were also some resources that are available through the Agency for Community Living. So
Yes.
that's available as well, but those are more general guidelines. If you really want some immediate support, please contact the United Spinal Resource Center.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing. And Bill just said that he'll actually reach out to Jen Wolf in Iowa to see if they can do anything more immediately there. It's really all about connecting people and connecting resources.
I think even though we're in a time of need and the Resource Center is doing an amazing job of trying to meet those needs right away, if we can capture those stories, those are going to help us with advocacy going forward to try to change the system, to kind of more directly answer Peter's question. The more that we can get those stories to say this is a piece of our society that's getting missed, to be able to relay that to our regulators and our policymakers in all countries, so that they understand our needs going forward. So even though United Spinal is on the front line trying to solve the immediate problems right now, we want to capture those stories so we can change policy going forward so we don't end up in this situation again.
Yes, and by us sharing those stories with Congress is how that policy changes. Are there any other questions that people have right at the moment? I don't see any other questions coming in through the chat box. So if there is nothing else that comes up right at the moment, I'm really glad to see so many people that joined in with us. And we're going to start doing this every 3 to 4 months. And we certainly welcome feedback all the time in between then. And not only is our email info@nazcaconsortium.org. On our website, there's contact information for everybody that is on the executive council. So you can email and contact them directly as well. So we're all happy to answer questions, take in ideas, and certainly take in volunteers to work more on all of the different efforts that we all need to work on to have a successful life with spinal cord injury. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting and thank everyone for joining us. Okay. Bye.
Thanks everyone for coming. Bye.
Bye.